In this episode, I'm speaking with several software engineering leaders about the Elon versus Zuck cage fight, Sir Richard Branson finally taking tourists into space, a billion-dollar unicorn fraud, and a crazy new smartwatch concept, as well as a creepy new update coming to the Amazon Alexa. So make sure that you stick around until the end of this video so that you can learn all of the latest tech news and industry trends. Welcome back to the podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
Okay, so first topic of conversation is Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg agree to hold a cage fight. I am not making this up. This is real. This is 2023. We are living in Black Mirror. It's officially happened. Musk tweeted that he was up for a cage fight with Zuck, the billionaire founder of Meta. Mark then posted on Instagram, one of the Meta companies, a screenshot of the tweet with the caption, "Send me location," which for the people that don't know, I believe that's a reference to the Conor McGregor and the Russian guy when they fought a couple of years ago. I believe that's what he said in his broken English, and that's what kind of led to the fight. Zuck is super athletic. He is like a black belt, I believe. He's trained in this for a long time. Elon is like an overweight, 10 years older or whatever, rich guy. He doesn't need to do any exercise. I think he actually admitted on Twitter, or X now as it's called, right? That he the only exercise that he gets is like throwing around his kids and playing with kids. He did say he has got a special move called the Walrus, which is where he lays on top of Zuck and just doesn't move, and that's his attempt to win. But yeah, like crazy story. I don't even know where to begin with this, but Robert, what's your take when? And it's a weird one to start with, man. But what's your impressions of the cage fight?
I'm right up for this. I think the UFC can jump on this, sell tickets, get it out to charity. This could be the biggest fight of the century
Of all time, right?
Of all time, this is Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I guess the biggest one at the moment would probably be Mayweather and McGregor, right? That was like I remember watching that in an airport in Brisbane a couple of years back. But this would do like 10 times that in theory. UFC would go crazy for this sort of thing. What's your take, Mihir?
So they even offered the Colosseum to host the fight.
A Colosseum?
Yeah.
Like in Rome or something?
Yeah, so Italy, the Italian government reached out, or somebody from Italy reached out, is like, hey, even the Colosseum is available if you do want to have this fight.
Everybody wants it to happen.
Yeah.
I now have this terrible image of both of them in loincloths, gladiator.
Like the two billionaires just fighting it out. I mean, in true billionaire style, they could potentially just pay somebody else to do it for them, and they just kind of stand back and watch as the fighting happens, perhaps. But so you mentioned the charity angle there, Robin. That's a really good point, because these guys are rich enough; they don't need the hundreds of millions that they'd get from it. So it would be kind of good if they made it a charity thing, right? And is that what they've been talking about, or is that just an idea which came to your mind?
No, I don't think they've even begun to think about that. But
no,
it's sort of a, if they're going to do something stupid, let's get some benefit out of it for the world.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the proposition of two of the most controversial and hated men just
in the world.
Yeah, in the world, just punching each other. I think that would appeal. That would draw a massive
Everybody
audience.
would watch it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who Zuck. People use Facebook, even if you're, elderly. My grandma is on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And then, young people perhaps are more interested in TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. But, these companies, to tweet something was part of the cultural digest. I mean, now it's to X something, I guess. I don't know if it's got the same appeal, but and everyone knows Facebook, everyone knows Instagram. Instagram's got like 2 billion daily active users or something. WhatsApp is huge in like India, for example. So the whole world knows who these people are, whereas the world probably didn't know who like Conor McGregor is. I know he's super famous in the fighting world, but not everybody knows who that person is, right? So this is a little bit different because these guys have got like universal appeal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is different. I think it's in some respect, in terms of face recognition, it's like Biden punching it out with Putin.
Yes, yeah.
But I think there is a downside to it because we have this sort of Edison-like view of these guys.
Yeah.
So it's going to perpetuate this idea that, hey, these crazy, clever guys are just wacky dudes instead of perhaps being fundamentally idiots.
I mean, this might not be the smartest move, right? I mean, I really do wish they, as entertaining as it would be, I would love to see Musk focus on trying to get us to Mars, or Zuck trying to, not have some blocky cartoon metaverse and have something that's like really, really cool and exciting and interesting to it. I know that's what they're spending most of their time on, but any detour, any distraction of a great mind is time wasted if that actually happens. They have been taking it fairly seriously though, in the respect that Musk has started training for this. So he's been working with. There's been some pictures on Twitter, on X. It took me a while to get used to that. Of them bashing it out with like UFC, like professional world class, world champions. Lex Freeman, the popular tech podcaster, he has been training with Musk and Zuck. There's videos. There was a video with Zuck, and then there was a picture with Musk, which I think explains kind of why Musk might need to have a bit more training. So I guess they're both training. They've both been on a call with Dana White, the head of the UFC, to talk about actually making this happen. So it does sound like they're both pretty dead serious. But I don't know, like if you had to make predictions here, do we actually think this will happen? What would you say, Mihir?
I mean, there was a time when Musk's mom stepped in she's like, oh no, my son is not going to be fighting here. Where I think he probably DM'd her in the background. Is like, hey, can you just pull me out of this somehow and make up some excuse for this?
Yeah.
The way I see it is that from Musk, one of his primary driving factors is that he wants to appear cool.
Yeah.
Or he wants to appeal to the people. He wants to appear funny. Like, he could have been just happy, like taking away the credit of being real life Tony Stark or something like that, till he actually revealed himself and being that needy guy who just wants to appear funny all the time and craves validation from people. And so that's definitely making that proposition was driven from there. And now he probably realizes that, okay, I'm going to fight Zuckerberg, who's 40 years old, jiu-jitsu black belt, has won local tournaments in jiu-jitsu, etc. And on Zuckerberg's side, it's more of an image cleansing one, where he never had the thing which Musk had, where he was universally cool, looked up to, right? Where he was just always that robotic guy who just is like a tech nerd, right? So for him, it's going to be a massive thing because, of course, he's going to win. But at the same point of time, he appears as some sort of a cool person and cleanses his image a bit. And on the Musk side, I don't know. I think he's going to back out last moment, making some excuse.
Well, getting his mum to step in. I don't know if he asked her, but imagine if like the richest person in the history of the world has to pull out of a fight because his mum gets involved on Twitter. I mean, that's just hilarious. It even adds to it. But I think you're absolutely right here. He's got a very desire and he really good at staying relevant and influential. I mean, he had the money, but he actually had the most followers on Twitter before the purchase. And I think part of me thinks he was perhaps a bit scared of, maybe tweeting out the wrong meme or something and getting cancelled. And then he's lost that huge following. So maybe buying Twitter was like insurance for maintaining his reach and his influence and impact on the world from that perspective. But you can certainly see it in like the crazy stunts. Like every other month, it's like, hey, here's a new one. Hey, pay attention to me, sort of thing. And I will gladly sit there with the popcorn watching because it's very, very entertaining and appealing. What's your take, Rob? Do you think this is going to happen? Do you think it's a little moment in the zeitgeist, or do you think it's actually going to happen?
Hard to say, really. I mean, Musk's got mileage in sort of going forward and saying, I'm going to spend $44 billion on something and then changing his mind 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And his mum's a pretty powerful figure in his life.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, she raised him, essentially after he, I think he doesn't have a great relationship with his father, so he kind of looks at her as like the person setting the morality and the standards, right?
Very much so.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if she was able to sway him. What about predictions, right? Let's say this doesn't happen tomorrow because he'll need to train if he's actually going to do it. But let's say in like a year or two, Musk is like, he's jacked, he's trained, he's really, really invested himself into this like he did with Tesla or SpaceX or whatever, and he's ripped. And, it's him, Twitter or X versus Meta, Zuck. They go head to head. Who's going to win? Let's get predictions, right? I mean, right now the answer is Zuck, probably, right? I mean, unless like some miracle happened. But could Elon beat him? Like, let's get predictions. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Musk on this one. He's just got the bulk and the flab.
Sure.
He can outweigh anyone
bigger.
just by what was his phrase? Walrusing on top of
walrusing them. Just lay on them. And,
has sort of this vision of like a sumo against a little tiny jiu-jitsu person. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, he actually had a fight with a sumo wrestler a couple of years ago at like a birthday party of his, and he messed up his spine doing that. He had to have surgery or something. So, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Like if you're bigger, you can wrestle them, you can lay on them and hold them down. Okay, 1 point for Elon.
So I think what Musk has going for him is definitely the weight, and of course both have money, so they both have the best training available to them, or best diet, or everything is available to them.
Everything. Yeah.
But given that, with his age, his lifestyle till now, and not having worked out a single day in his life, and starting at 50, I don't think he has a way back.
Yeah.
And also, this would require a tremendous amount of discipline as well to achieve, just to get there. And I don't think he has that in him as well, because even for losing weight, he uses Ozempic or something like that. Rather than actually going out and training or controlling his diet, he uses external medication for that. So I definitely think he lacks that discipline, and I would give it to Zuck.
What medication is it?
It's actually got legalized in UK as well, Ozempic, in the past few months. It's something which I think it makes you less hungry.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But it's essentially weight loss medication, which works.
It'll be interesting to. I mean, look, clearly Zuck would win now, but who knows? In a couple of years, maybe you're right. I mean, I just. Like, obviously, I'd much rather them focus on building great tech companies, but the entertainment side of me is like, Colosseum, let's make it happen. Fight to the death, and the winner gets to keep the other person's social network. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
fighting for pink slips.
Yeah, it would be the monopoly of monopolies, really. I mean, I could see Musk, being like, hey, yep, let's let. I don't think Zuck would ever agree to wager Meta on a fight. But who knows? Let's make it happen. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. All right, moving on to Mr. Richard Branson. He has entered space with the tourist project of his, which he's been working on for decades and decades and decades. So I'll show a quick clip of this on the screen for people watching on video as well, so you can see what's happening. But after 20 years of development, Sir Richard Branson has officially entered the billionaire space tourism race when his Virgin Galactic rocket plane Unity achieved a successful flight with paying tourist customers. Richard has sold an estimated 800 seats so far, at around almost $500,000 per seat. With the expectation that's going to, tenfold after this development. You can see them waving the flag. They're all celebrating. They're all happy. They are in space, even if it's briefly before it comes back down to Earth, and then obviously, thankfully, safely lands. In the same way that we've seen SpaceX being able to go up and down. This is a little bit different in terms of how it lands. It's more of like a plane feel, but still a successful. These people are astronauts now. These 4 or 5 people that went into space, they paid $500,000, and they can now put astronaut in their Instagram bio or something, which is like pretty cool. What are your thoughts on Sir Richard Branson taking tourists into space, Mihir?
So the way I see it is that space, or any space business, is divided into 3 segments at the moment. So one is payload delivery, or space baggage delivery, which is like delivering satellites or any other components required in space.
Which is where the money is as well at the moment. Like the SpaceX, Starlink is like keeping the cash cow.
Blue Origin, etc.
Exactly.
And the other is space tourism, and then there is space exploration.
Yeah.
And I think space tourism is one of the things which I don't understand or can't empathize with unless it's feeding into the pipeline of baggage delivery. Because like if you are launching any product, right, and then you would draw a customer journey map of like what is the applicable addressable market size, etc. Yeah. For space tourism, addressable market size, you can just pull a Wikipedia, where it's like any one net worth over this, those are the people I need to contact.
Sure.
So it's something I clearly can't empathize with because I don't have that sort of a money or would ever will, where it's just something which I can understand or empathize with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But if that company is feeding into something around payload delivery, then I can understand that this is something worth doing overall. But till then, I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, with the satellites, that's like the obvious way to make the cash if you're gonna spend billions going into space, right?
Yeah.
Or like mining an asteroid or something in the future. That will probably be another like use case and way to fund getting people up there. I know what you're saying. It's really expensive at $500,000 to get somebody into space, but maybe that cost will come down. Maybe they keep doing it, and I don't know exactly what it could come down to. I mean, it's still space. It's still pretty expensive. I mean, but eventually that price obviously will become a little bit more stomachable for maybe upper middle class people or something.
But even if you take the cost itself, I'm not sure how they're making money off it. Like, I'm not even sure whether this is a profitable thing or not, because if it's 800 people, $500,000 per ticket, if there is, I think, 8 or 12 people per delivery, I think it costs more at the moment.
I think it probably would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but like with the it's tech. I mean, it doesn't have to make money right now. It can it can lose money forever, and then it can make a lot of money later on when they go public or sell or merge or whatever. Different world, isn't it? When you come to these kind of fast growing unicorn type businesses. I mean, this is a 2-decade-old company, so not. But space, anything on the cutting edge is a little bit different when it comes to profit and valuations, right? So, this clip was actually sent to me on Twitter, or X now. My handle will be on the screen at the moment if people want to send me clips on there and have their products, services, news featured on the show. What's your take, Rob, on this story?
Yeah, I was initially wondering about the economics of it because, as you say, it's at best you can consider it a loss leader. And then I started thinking about, well, if they take that income and use it and turn back into building the infrastructure around the launch, because the infrastructure that they need to get a few space tourists up is the same infrastructure they need to get payload up. So I feel it's a case where they could be using this to fund the research and the infrastructure needed for the more profitable part of the business.
Yeah. And then the ultimate goal is what you mentioned earlier, up space exploration, right? That would be like the dream, is to go to Mars and beyond and to the stars. It's a question that I've asked on the show a couple of times to people, but if I frame it to you chaps, if you both had like a free ticket to go to Mars, let's say, for example, keeping in mind you're probably not coming back right now. Like if the early people that go to Mars, they're not going there for a holiday. They're going to help set up infrastructure, and they're probably going to die there. After a couple of years, it's not going to be a great existence. But you get your name in the history books, right? As one of the the Neil Armstrongs of the world. Free ticket? Would you guys say yes? Would you pass? What would your thoughts be?
I'd take it in a flash.
You take it?
Probably wouldn't qualify for it, but I'd definitely take it.
I think I'd have to do a take as well. I mean, it's one of those things, right? But I'm sure my wife wouldn't be too happy when I tell her. But what about you, Mihir?
No, I don't think I would take it.
More sensible than us.
Mostly because I don't want to take that long flight. Yeah. Like, it's probably a year plus. I would get quite bored on the way.
I mean, it wouldn't be very entertaining. It would be a pretty boring. I mean, it'd be great to everybody else that knows the story, but you actually on there. The thing about Mars is it's not a great place like to live. It's got little rocks, huge rocks flying around. Gravity's terrible. You can't go outside. It's it's not very hospitable. What the word is. So I don't really think it's like the sort of thing that people would really, really want to do. It's not like a billionaire vacation. Like people think, you're going to Mars, you must have loads of money. It's like a great way for a billionaire to get away for a weekend. No, it's not exactly that. But Well, what about when it becomes more? I suppose you mentioned the tourism angle here. Do you think in our lifetimes that's going to be a real thing? People going in. I mean, obviously we've seen it with Branson, but this is like a couple of billionaires on a on a trial. Do you think in your lifetimes you'll see daily trips to space where the average person, not average person perhaps, but somebody with not crazy amounts of money could put their hand up and go on some kind of adventure? What do you think, Rob?
Interesting question. I think it's feasible. Yeah. If we look at the history of space flight, we had the big burst in the last century.
Yeah.
The US in got a cold feet around the costs of it for a while. It all went very quiet for a few decades, and then it's gone into the public sector. And on the back of the public sector interest, there's been a renewed interest from the nation states in this.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing is the price of getting something to orbit is coming down all the time. And the reliability and the safety of going to orbit is coming down all the time. And I think that those two things will come together as a sweet spot where it's, hey, let's spend 10 grand and go to space.
I mean, the big thing with the price was when Elon figured out how to make it land, because the cost is the rocket. I mean, it's crazy. You're sending this thing worth billions into space, and then it's gone. It's not reusable. But having it land and then being able to use it again and again and again, and imagine it flying to a planet, landing, and then flying to another one, landing. I mean, that's like the big thing that got the price down. Yeah,
I heard it described by Ian Dunt a couple of days ago as, imagine you take a flight in a 747 across the Atlantic and then throw it away.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, not even a return trip.
No return trip.
Yeah. What's your opinion, Mihir? Do you think in your lifetime you'll have your children perhaps going into space? What do you think?
So if we draw parallels with the commercial airline industry, so if you think of a private jet or a chartered flight, that is still only available to less than 0.01% of the population. Mm-hmm. I'm not even talking about buying a private jet, but just chartering a flight from, say, here, London to Paris.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think of commercial, it went through layers of regulation as well, and a lot of safety aspects of in-flight behavior. So even if you have a rocket of capability, because these rockets are slightly different than the payload delivery one, because this rocket, there's something which boosts it up to 15 kilometers, and then there is another boost up to 90 kilometers, and then it comes back. So it's quite different from the payload delivery rockets, which is just completely a single component till it gets out of the stratosphere.
Okay, sure.
So I think given that even chartered flight is just only available to 0.01% of the population at the moment, and this will never get to a place of safety regulation where you can take like 300 people at the same point of time, because managing 300 people in zero gravity and ensuring they don't have their seatbelts on at that layer.
It's going to be a big ship, right?
Yeah, small children ricocheting around the cabin.
Maybe I like imagination, but I just see it quite difficult that this happening during my lifetime.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, who knows? We had other types of space products than before, which perhaps might be a little bit more realistic. There was Spaceship Neptune, which is basically a hot air balloon which takes you into space and allows you can have like a private dinner and stuff, and that I can see that sort of thing happening, because you don't have to worry about a huge rocket or anything. It's quite a different concept, and that I think that sort of thing could make space tourism very accessible, because it was like a 100-200 grand or something, so it was like a lot cheaper than this, but it doesn't quite have the same appeal. Like going up in a rocket versus going up in a hot air balloon, they feel like different things, don't they? If that makes sense. Hey, really quick video just to give you a free subscription to Coder magazine. Coder is the #1 publication for all the latest tech news, expert insights, and exclusive industry interviews. With Coder, you get the inside scoop on what's happening with Elon Musk, with Bill Gates, with Jeff Bezos, with Mark Zuckerberg, and so much more. So if you work in the technology industry, then I'd highly recommend that you give Coder a read today. Just scan the QR code on the screen for free access now, or go to welovealpha.com/magazine to get your free subscription today. Let's have a look at a company which has been in the news quite a bit recently, IRL, in real life, obviously, that's what it means. So this is a $1 billion unicorn, which has basically turned out to be a fraud. Another one, it wasn't just Theranos, it wasn't just FTX, that's it, the FTX. There's been so many recently, hasn't there? It's almost become a joke. There was one called Frank or something. There was this app where this girl, I think it was called Frank, she sold it to JP Morgan, the bank, and then it turned out like all the users were fake, like they were just like bots, and yeah, I believe she was gone to prison. And this is a similar concept. So the meetup platform in real life, IRL, which I've actually used. I thought it was a decent enough app. It's basically like meetup.com, but with a few other functionality, which is interesting because meetup.com has been quite successful. It certainly captured that meetup market, market share. Like, I don't really see anything else. Like maybe like a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group is like their biggest competitor, kind of. But anyway, these guys tried to do it. They raised $200 million from SoftBank, who famously had the WeWork fiasco as well. And it was shut down basically after it was revealed that 95% of its users were fake bots. The IRL team once boasted nearly a 400% growth over 15 months. However, of course, it turned out to be a fraud. I think when something is too good to be true, then perhaps it often is. There's no word yet, because I think the founders, the leaders, I think they stepped aside a few months before this might have happened. So I don't know if anyone's gone to prison yet. I don't know if there's been charges filed or anything like that. This story was actually sent to me on Threads, believe it or not. So the new platform on Zuck's end. So if you do want to send us clips on Threads, we have a platform there as well where the handle will be on the screen. You can send us footage on there. But what are your views, chaps, on IRL? Yes, IRL.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with this story until you sent it to me, Alfie. And my reaction was 4-letter words initially because I just couldn't believe the numbers involved.
Yeah, crazy.
But I stopped and thought about it and thought, well, in a way, these startups are kind of incentivized for that as an option.
Yeah.
And I know free money is kind of dried up now, but
for now, I mean, give it a few months and it will pivot back.
I couldn't help but thinking about the Theranos case because there seemed to be some similarities there, and I'd really like to know whether or not they did this deliberately or they just got caught in having to lie because they had a lie and they had to build on top of the lie.
Yeah. I mean, that's often how these things escalate, right? It starts like a really, really small white lie, and then before long you're, farming out bots to wherever, some offshore country that was just creating fake accounts and signing up to your app all day, which is like such a 2023 thing to think about. Like people, their job is just to make accounts, sign up, and then make a new one. But that's you can't even get bots to make the accounts a lot of the time because of the real person capture and authentication. So you actually need people doing this a lot of the time. Which is wild, but you're right. When you raise a lot of money to the point where they were like a unicorn, it's like $1 billion valuation. You have to show numbers to the investors. You have to show results. Otherwise, you look terrible, and your career could be over. So faking it till you're making it. I understand where they're coming. It's not something I'd personally ever do. I couldn't bring myself to do it, but I get it. Like they would. That they do this with the hope that they eventually would become successful elsewhere, and then it wouldn't really matter. That was Elizabeth Holmes's kind of theory with Theranos. She really believed. I think she deluded herself to the point where she believed she could actually make this work. Take a drop of blood and figure out all the problems with you and everything. And obviously it didn't have that effect. And thankfully, this is not that. This is like a meetup app. Right, she was like messing with lives, which could kill people. So different worlds. But what's your take, Mihir, on the story?
I think the first thing is SoftBank really needs to figure out their due diligence on how.
It's happened a few times now.
They've got a bit of mileage, haven't they?
Definitely. This is like even with established platforms, bot detection is a hard problem, right? Like say Amazon, Facebook, Twitter. Detecting what are real accounts and what are not is a difficult thing. So, and as you said that people are incentivized to inflate these numbers as well. So I'm not sure what happened here exactly, whether they intentionally planned it or just because it's a new social media, a lot of bots just joined in and they tweak their algorithm to show it as growth rather than actual bot detection.
Sure.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I'm not sure about what exactly happened, whether there was a malicious intent or not, but SEC is investigating them, so they would probably get to the bottom of this. But it's quite difficult just to verify whether something is a bot or not, and if the actual company really wants to fake bots or inflate numbers, they could potentially do that if they don't have any monetization plan, because that's where bot versus real customers would actually show up. If there is no monetization plan, then you can just inflate any numbers and you can fake any sort of bots. But
X is the perfect example of that with the verification, right? I mean, like Twitter is got more bots than anything, I imagine. And if you ask those bots to pay to use a platform, they're not going to do it. I mean, like unless it's like a psyop, like a political campaign trying to convert people to a certain way of thinking. So I think you're absolutely right. That is something that the companies need to keep in mind. It'll be interesting to see if they were faking the daily active users as well, because that's like really what apps get measured on in my experience, like how many people are actually using it every single day, as opposed to just sign-ups. Because if you look at sign-ups, like I'm sure Twitter or Facebook or whatever will be like the number one like discarded product in the world, where people have signed up and then never you like logged back in again. There'll be so many accounts on all the social media platforms, but still they're the most successful companies in the world because of the daily active users, which is really what happens. So I wonder if like these bots like logging in daily to kind of like trick the system, but such a weird world that we're living in, that like stuff that it's actually happening. SoftBank, you mentioned around a few mishaps really. Masayoshi Son, I think I'm pronouncing it right, is the founder CEO. So he created like the Vision Fund, which was his goal of like betting on like futuristic technologies. I don't know if this was part of that investment fund or if it was a different, kind of like a VC package, but he had like the famous WeWork fiasco a couple of years ago. I don't even know if they're still involved in WeWork anymore.
Don't know.
No. I know that they. I heard a story about the founder. I don't know if this is true. It was told me about by a really well-known CTO in London. But he said that they actually had an opportunity to invest in Amazon very early on, and they passed on it. Which if he had made the investment, he'd be the richest person in the history of the world. I don't know if that's true, but he seems to like make some like really genius moves with investing, but also some absolutely terrible moves as well. I guess that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about like those like like the Elon and then the Zucks of the world. How like they're crazy on one hand, but they can build amazing things on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting one to see what will happen with this. Do you think people will end up going to jail like over this? Because it is fraud at the end of the day. I mean, I know it's white collar fraud. It's not quite Elizabeth Holmes level. It's not quite FTX where you're messing around with people's money. I mean, it's like this meetup event, but still you're messing around with the investors' money at the end of the day, and that's still people. Do you think people could go to jail over faking bots and this sort of thing? What do you think, Mihir?
Yeah, 100%. Because if somebody really rich and powerful is the one who's cheated, the person who cheated them or committed fraud against them, they would face the consequences.
Even more so, right? If
more
it's a
so,
rich guy
yeah.
that you're going against. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The US financial system is very, very unforgiving of somebody who plays fast and loose with other people's money.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like FTX. I mean, he's not in jail yet, is he? I mean, he's like...
No, I think he's hiding out in the Bahamas or something still.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. Yeah, so sometimes, even Elizabeth Holmes, she only just went to prison recently. I mean, that was ages ago. She had kids and had a life for ages, and then some people say the kids were a ploy not to go to jail. But I don't know. I won't go there. She's an interesting woman. That's all I'd say on her anyway. All right, we'll move to hardware. So this is an interesting product which was actually sent to me on LinkedIn. So if you enjoy the show and watch clips on LinkedIn, you can send me them on there. The handle will be on the screen. This is a watch which some people are saying could potentially be the Apple Watch killer. So the next smartwatch, the next concept here. I'll show a quick clip for people watching on video at the moment. Essentially, this is a Huawei Watch Buds. It's a combination between a smartwatch and wireless earphones, so they can be stored and charged within the actual watch. It kind of opens up and you can put earphones inside there. New concept. Now, some people are saying this innovation is the future. Some are saying it's just a gimmick. I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's an interesting concept regardless. The buds are really, really small, so they probably wouldn't have like the quality of like AirPod Pros or something like that, which I tend to use, or the Nothing 2 earbuds. I'm not sure if you've tried those, but they're fantastic. Tried those recently. But yeah, I don't know how good of a watch, like a smartwatch, it actually is as well. So I haven't actually tried this out. So, but just in terms of the concept, what are your thoughts on like combining a smartwatch, combining earphones? Robert, what's your take when you hear this?
Well, I love the marketing on this website. This website is gloriously beautiful. The photography is amazing. The video is amazing.
Great.
And the first thing that struck my mind was, like, this looks like an ad for a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
James has got his incredibly high-end watch on his wrist, and he plucks out the secret earbuds.
Yes.
It looks very, very luxurious. Whether it's going to work, I don't know.
It's got a spy feel to it. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I don't know if it's like if it's either like really genius or it's just because the thing about having a smartwatch, the problem is the battery. Like, you got to charge this thing every night basically, and that's going to drain the battery even more by having something else that it's charging, I imagine. And then I don't know about the quality of the AirPods. And having AirPod Pros, it's not that much of a hassle to carry them around. Like, it's really not. Like, it's a small little thing. So I don't know. Like, I kind of see the future of AirPod Pros like getting like a screen on the box. You can like see what song you're playing. You can like press forward and change it by pausing it and stuff. So I think it's going to stay as a standalone product rather than merging. But maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. What's your take when you see this, Mihir?
So I think of it as sort of a Venn diagram where there's the circle of people who want a smartwatch, a circle of people who want earbuds, and then where they intersect, and then there is a smaller subset of people is like, I don't care about the battery life, as you said. I don't care about the sound quality. I just want fewer things in my pocket, and I want to charge fewer things. So that's the total addressable market size of this watch particularly. And then if you look at innovation on both the sides of those individual products, smartwatches the smartwatch makers are going to go towards the direction of making it thinner, making it lighter, and making it last longer.
I think so.
And on the other side, earbud manufacturer will try to make it in the sense of that it offers better noise cancellation, offers better sound quality,
a bit bigger,
offers better battery life and longevity, and also offers better sweat resistant, better dust resistance, etc. So this seems kind of opposing to both the goals of those individual products by themselves. And combining them actually hampers the innovation on both of those individual products by themselves. Because if you have earphones in your watch, you are fixed to a size no matter how much. You will never be the cutting edge in smartwatch because you won't be the thinnest, lightest, and especially if it's Huawei as well, they have sanctions on them where they can't.
Yeah, can they even sell in the US? I mean, I don't know if they're reopened there, but they were banned for a while, weren't they?
I think they're banned from the the Google Play Store, where they can't do that. They have their own separate thing, and I think they can connect to the network there, I think. Yeah. But they can't use Android or Play Store or anything like that.
Yeah. What about like the obvious question is, would Apple do something like this? Because I know that the Apple Watch was like there was like the Fitbit beforehand, right? But that wasn't really like a smartwatch. It was more of a fitness gadget. The Apple Watch was like the first like thing in popular culture where people went, hey, that's like, a product which I would use. Or almost you could say that with like the Vision Pro, like when Apple does something, it kind of validates it, and Meta's not just like a gaming headset anymore. It's like, oh, Apple have done it, so it must be a thing that people can do. I mean, that's like kind of whether you're Android or Apple or whatever, I think that's a factual statement. When Apple do something, people kind of recognize it as being like an acceptable thing to even like with AirPods, like they look like Q-tips in your ears. They were ridiculous, but then everyone's like now wearing them because it's just become acceptable. They validated the concept. So if Apple did this and like had like an Apple Watch Ultra XL, it'd be a pretty big one, like or something. Maybe even with like the high end version, they just put like normal AirPods inside it or something. Could you see that being a thing, or do you think they'd pass on this? Because they don't do everything. I mean, they're very particular about what they do, but when they do something, they really go on it, and then everybody else copies. So the question is, would Apple do this? Because if they do this, everybody else is going to do it, right? So what do you think here?
So, Apple Watch is the most popular watch in the world. It's the most highest selling watch in the world.
Okay.
I think from a business point of view, Apple wants to sell more accessories than fewer, and this would reduce the number of amount of products and things and the flexibility it offers at the moment. And Apple really is great at making products which do one thing really well, where they're probably the best build quality, one of the best software, hardware in that segment. So I don't see Apple going down this route of because it involves a lot of compromises on two different parts of the products. just because of the physics of it. And I don't see Apple going down this route.
Yeah, even interesting that we're having this conversation, because both of those products are still pretty new. Like I remember like wired headphones. That's not that long ago, was it? I mean, that was.
Yeah.
I mean, but now you can't, if you see somebody with wires down their ears, you think, oh, what a peasant or something. It's a different world. And then we've watched. I do love nice watches. I have got like a nice Rolex and stuff, but like I prefer to wear an Apple Watch just because it's got like so much more functionality. It's got alarms on, it's got Spotify, it's got everything, right? So what's your take? Two relatively new concepts merging into one. Could Apple do this? What do you think?
I really can't see Apple doing it for the same reasons Mihir said.
Yeah.
It's the product's going to be hampered by trying to do two things at the same time really well, and the two characteristics of the two devices are going to be pulling in opposite directions. The one thing I did think that when I was looking at it with the video was like, well, I'd probably lose the earbuds pretty well straight away, but then I've got a convenient place to store Tic Tacs.
I had the exact same thought. I thought that could probably open quite easily, and then if you knock it and then they just fall out, I mean, you're kind of screwed, aren't you?
Yeah, so I can't see Apple going down this route. Apple, as you say, they're a hardware company. They like to do really good hardware, and anything that compromises that vision of really good hardware, they just won't embrace. Yeah,
I mean, this is either going to age really, really well or be completely wrong, but I'm open to both. Let's see what happens. Okay, final clip is from Amazon. So Amazon's Alexa could turn your dead loved one's voices into an assistant. Yes, I said that. Amazon is developing technology that will allow its Alexa digital assistant to mimic the voice of anyone it hears from less than a minute of provided audio. Many people are saying this is creepy and could create problems such as deep fake scams. Other people are saying it's it's amazing and you'd love to not have that annoying robotic voice, but have somebody that you know. I know Apple are doing a very similar thing with the new iOS to this, where you can record yourself speaking. It will then create a voice AI clone, and then if like I text you, Mihir, and you had my number saved, it would then read it out in my voice, for example, which is like probably a better way of doing it than like the Alexa model. But what's your take on Amazon doing this? It's actually not like a super new story. They have been talking about doing this for a while, but only recently has it started to like become like, when's this going to drop? When's it happening? Is it going to be something that pretty soon you're going to wake up and your Alexa is going to start speaking in different accents and that sort of thing? This clip was sent to me on Instagram, so if you want to send clips on there, you can DM me. The handle will be on the screen. But what are your thoughts, chaps, on Alexa creepy AI voice features? Rob, what comes to mind?
This actually scared me a little bit, this article. Buried in there was the comment that they're talking about doing voice substitution, so taking a small sample of the voice and then from that creating, well, whatever they want to say.
Yeah. And
knowing how Amazon operates with their software, this tells me that they've commoditized this. So straight up, if they've gotten to this point of being able to offer this through Alexa, then it's, next AWS conference, they'll announce this as something you just turn on in AWS, and then 2 minutes after that, every startup on the planet's offering a way to, have Joe Biden read you bedtime stories. So
you definitely fall asleep pretty quick, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think that this genie's well and truly out of the bottle now.
Yeah, I think there's no going back on the AI side, is there? It's just impossible to reverse it, and this is like the next application of it, really, with audio, video, and we're moving away from DALL-E and Midjourney pictures to now actually like fully fledged stuff that we can watch and listen. What's your take, Mihir?
So I think both Apple is doing something similar with iOS 17 as well, and there's Alexa, and I think the key difference between them is Apple is doing it on device, where your voice signature never leaves your device.
Okay.
And maybe reading out the text, etc., would involve some sort of a consent mechanism between the two parties. And with Alexa, I think it's just going to the cloud where it's being processed overall. So there's definitely privacy concerns over there. And as Rob just said, that for Amazon, commoditizing it as an AWS service would definitely be the money maker in this scenario.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like overall in this AI space, what we are now at this moment is that we have a ton of different capabilities which we have built up as individual things. We haven't figured out how we are going to solve problems with it. Like, we are on the way, but it's like, hey, now we can recreate your voice. Hey, now we can do text to speech. We can do speech to text perfectly. Now we can do text to image, image to text, etc.
Yeah.
Perfectly. And I think I don't see it yet, but once there will be few products or few problems which will be solved once people figure out how to bring all of this together, like this capability as well. Where, what you mentioned, like reading your messages in your voice is one really nice application of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be quite interesting to see how all of these capabilities get leveraged to solve real life problems in the
Absolutely.
future,
I think like 3 to 5 years, probably even sooner than that, there'll be companies at the same size as Meta and Google, which don't exist at the moment, which are going to be created and going to be solving these problems that you talked about. And it's good because we now know what the problems are. Like with GPT, we've gone like, hey, here's what it can do in at a basic level. Take one of those applications, really, really build it and flesh it out, turn it into an app, and then boom, you've got something that could be worth billions. So and this is an example of that, right? I think I'd probably like to use the Alexa more for like, hey, make it Morgan Freeman, or make it, like some like nice relaxing voice that you want to hear like all the time. I don't know like about how having it like another human. I think that's just going like a little bit too weird for me. I don't mind the Apple version, because if like they're sending you a text and it's reading it out, that's like a little bit better than like your Alexa just suddenly turning into your great grandma or something.
I think it's funny you mentioned that you want the Alexa voice to turn into Morgan Freeman, because currently one of the biggest stories is that there's a writers and actors strike going on.
Yeah.
And it's around the very similar issue about recreation or impersonation of the actors by AI itself, where they don't get any royalty or any money from it.
Yeah.
And with actors, it's like only the top 0.1% make some money, and the rest of them are again on pennies. And similarly with writers as well, where they are worried about the AI recreating their work. And I guess that's one of the applications where they still have to figure out the copyright quite well on how the writers or the actors will get rewarded for their contribution to what you're using at the moment.
I think they're in trouble, to be honest. I think when you can create a script using GPT and it's better quality than a human, perhaps not right now, but it will be after it gets enough data and keeps learning, then I think, that's going to cause a real problem for writers that are on strike. Maybe not being on strike is like the safe thing for them to do right now. It's just giving GPT more time to show people what it can do. But I completely get where they're coming from, obviously. I think The Rock just made like a huge donation to the strike to keep it going as well, so to fund the families and stuff. So well, what about from your take, Rob? Do you see this becoming a thing that people use, like a couple of years from now? Do you think everybody will have a personal Alexa voice? What would your prediction be?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to happen. If we look at a lot of AI, I've got a mate who always says AI is just the things we don't know how to do yet. A lot of AI technologies that we thought were impossible even a decade ago are now just absorbed into our technologies around us. Even dumb things like having Zoom blur your background and recognise your face. This was considered a hard problem 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. So this stuff disappears into our consumer electronics, disappears into our consumer products to the point where people forget that it's there. So I think it's going to be normalised that your watch is going to wake you up with, Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Waking you up in the morning.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. But I think it'll also open up some quite scary things going on with fakes. The thing that concerns me really is the commoditisation of it. Yeah. At the moment, you can do deep fake voices. Anyone with enough technical nous can do it, and they can do it quite convincingly. I think we're only 1 or 2 years away before anyone can do it with, spending cents to build a fake of the PM saying something absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, I've talked about it before on the show with Biden. I mean, nuclear war would be somebody hacking his social media and posting a deep fake video saying he's going to drop a nuke or something, and then that wouldn't take long before People would people spend more time trying to figure out if it's fake, or would they just react quickly and launch like a counter strike or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that we've got as humans, we're susceptible to this stuff. We are very easily convinced of things, and I don't think we've got anything which allows us to, as a community or as a society or as a culture or even as a species, to be able to filter this out.
Yeah.
We need training, and that's not going to happen. It's going to be on us before we have any idea of how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, what about your prediction, Mihir? Are we going to see fake voices in every living room and bedroom of the world in the next couple of years, or do you think it will flop?
I mean, if you go to TikTok or YouTube Shorts or something like that at the moment, there are a lot of fakes about Biden, Obama, and Trump having a conversation about random stuff with each other.
Yeah.
And commodity, like making it a commodity, makes it like. I think you would see some version of it in the future in people's homes, where a regular person with no technical capability would also be able to recreate a voice.
Yeah.
But I think there would be a slight lag, and there would be tech which would catch on, which can detect what's the true source of this. Like, was this created? Is this fake, or is this a real person speaking?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not too sure about that, because we are still pretty bad at, like, captures don't work and etc. So we are still pretty bad at some basic things like determining whether this person is a real user or a bot.
I mean, it's a great idea, but like when you put it into into principle, it's a bit like community notes with Twitter, like trying to check the validity of something. Perhaps that's a better way. But like when you if you had a fake video, like the software that runs to detect if that's fake, can you trust that software, or is it, or could a person overwrite that and just put whatever they want as the yes or no? Will those tools be built into social media platforms, or will it be like an external Chrome plugin that you've got to download? I don't know.
I mean, those are difficult challenges. Like, even fake news is quite difficult at the moment, and we have struggled to solve that itself, and this seems at another level of complexity. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, chaps, for coming in. It was good to get your perspective on what's happening in the world of tech and tech news and everything in between. And thank you all for watching. You all know what to do if you enjoy the show, with following and liking, subscribing, etc., etc. And I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., etc. And I'll see you in the next episode.